Welcome to Retrofitting Our Reality, a podcast brought to you by Artus Air. Artus Air is a climate tech company that's all about changing the way we heat and cool our buildings. I'm Rebecca Stewart, CEO and co-founder of Artus Air, and it is people like my guest today that give me that unwavering belief in the fact that we can do better for our spaces with less. Ruth joins me here today in Hilson Moran's award-winning office space called the Living Lab, a home for innovation, collaboration, and a test bed for the new in our industry. So welcome to Ruth. I'm really excited about having you on today, and thank you for coming. I know I persuaded you to do so. You and I have known each other since we were 8 years old, but I've actually never really understood what it is you do. And actually, having gone through the prep for this podcast, it's just so obvious that you are actually designing the spaces that we play out our lives. So it's really, really important. And you do that with a singular passion of doing it with more consideration and using less waste. Please introduce yourself and the projects that you've done and what's driving you guys at Westworks Interiors.
I am Ruth Wainwright, co-founder of Westworks Interiors. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It's really good to get to chat to you. We create comfort, connection and joy in unfamiliar places. That's our strapline. And everything we try to do is purposeful. So often people think of interiors as being quite sort of, it's just about aesthetics. It's sort of irrelevant.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, every space that we're in is that it hugely influences how we think and how we live. And so interiors in that sense is not just sort of namby-pamby fluffy stuff. It's really, really quite psychological and important. So the projects that we work on, most notably, one of the ones that we're really proud of that we finished in February is the voco Zeal Hotel in Exeter, a co-brand with IHG. And that is Europe's first net zero carbon hotel.
Congratulations.
I know, it's really cool, isn't it? I'm really, really proud of that one. And yeah, that was a great project to work on. So our speciality is hospitality, workplace and large-scale resi. So PBSA, purpose-built student accommodation, co-living, build-to-rent, and then workplace, be that co-working or sort of someone's special office.
So quite a cross-section of the spaces that we all know and love.
Yeah.
And tell me, what is it that you guys look for in a project? What's driving your work at Westworks Interiors?
I think increasingly what drives us to choose projects, to take projects on, is if there's a purpose behind what we need to create. And that's, and increasingly, again, that's great because a lot of clients are really keen on understanding what their purpose is of their organisation or what they're trying to achieve.
And it helps us, doesn't it? It helps us because we work so hard and it is the majority of our week. And it really helps if you've got this, if you are aligned to what the client's trying to achieve.
Absolutely. I think it's not all, but a lot of our projects go on for many years. And I think if you are working on a project you just don't have your heart in, it just seems pointless.
And tell me, have you had a client that has given you that real wow, this is great, and actually it's followed through over those years of the projects coming to fruition?
Yeah, so a number. So one notably the hotel that from the very start, when we first sort of heard about it was probably about 5 years until completion. We didn't work on it solidly over that time, but you've really got to be able to sort of have that impetus to keep going, and there is a reason behind that.
And that's the Zeal Hotel.
That's voco Zeal,
client, and the client gave you that.
Our client, all credit to them. They had this vision 15, 20 years ago, and they've really, really pushed the boundaries to be able to get this product out there. And it's not been easy for them.
And did it work? Has it?
Yeah, it's Europe's first net zero carbon hotel, and that's brilliant for them.
And what was it like the first time you actually entered this building that you'd been, designing and drawing for such a long time?
So I think we go to site quite a lot throughout the build process. But the first time I walked in and realised, oh, this is what we were trying to create, was just as all the acoustic boards had gone up. It's something called Trolltech. It looks a bit like Weetabix.
Yes.
And it's a really sustainable interior cladding.
Okay.
And it's great acoustically. And the first time I walked in, most of the construction stuff had been cleared out, and that was in.
Oh, lovely.
And I walked in and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. It just felt really comfortable and calm. And actually the brand that this was a new brand. It was a co-brand with IHG.
Okay.
And we'd created the sort of the brand strategy behind it right at the very start, which was mindfully modern, creating conscious comfort and calm. And they've had a lot of feedback from guests.
Right.
Saying it makes them feel really, really, it's a really calming atmosphere.
But what blows my mind is actually thinking about how you then choose the elements of the interior that actually give that. How, lighting, texture, colour palette.
Colour palette's really, I mean, it's all really key. You do design for the senses, so touch, sight, hearing, smell, all of that. At the beginning of a project, you sort of understand what the brand's about, and create palettes, so mood boards, look and feel, that sort of thing. Love a mood board, yeah. Look and feel, and then you discuss that with the client and get that all signed off. And then it's a question of actually clients really trusting you to be able to deliver that in reality, because it might look great on a mood board. But in reality, it might actually not compute, Yeah. And I think the skill that we have then is understanding what textures, what colours, what materials. We're very knowledgeable. We stay on top of what's coming out and what's there.
Yeah.
And in terms of sustainable products as well, that was a huge learning curve for us, because there's a lot of stuff out there, but there's more out there that we hadn't been able to get hold of.
Yeah, things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
But tell me, so you've got this kind of Weetabix acoustic board.
Which sounds awful, but it looks really good.
So, and this is a 4-star, this is a pretty high luxury hotel.
Yeah, interesting.
How, it sounds a little bit at odds. How do you harmonise?
Actually, I feel quite proud of the fact that we're very skilled in balancing sort of the reality of the cost of a project against the goals of the client. So the goal of the client in this instance is very much to do with the carbon and sort of life cycle of everything. So then you look at where can the money be best spent on certain elements or certain finishes. So I was really insistent on getting this poured liquid lino, which is a new, very, very, well, it's not new, but has not been used so much in the UK.
Okay.
And it's sort of bio-based resin materials. So it's very sustainable.
Okay.
Quite hard to get into a project because contractors are a bit like,
how do I pull this?
How is this done?
Yeah. How do I then walk on it the next day? Yes.
Yeah. So it's so. And the reason we chose that for the main public areas is because there's this purpose, the sustainability purpose behind what voco Zeal.
But I can imagine the luxury comes out in that, because isn't it seamless?
Yes, it's
and
beautiful.
Doesn't it shine and have depth in it?
It's not shiny, but there's a bit of depth to it. It feels really lovely underfoot, so it's not noisy. And we took our client around to look at furniture in all the different London showrooms. We took them to specific companies that we knew were very sustainable in their practices and everything. For example, they fell in love with this one sofa that was quite expensive, and so that was where the money went. But it's an amazing sofa. There's no glue. And it's by a company called Andrew World, and then the fabric on that is made of hemp from Chimera. So it's just understanding.
And is it comfortable as well?
It's really comfortable.
Oh wow,
it's lovely. That's why they went for it, because he sat in it. It's like, oh, this is lovely.
This is recyclable, upcyclable,
and that's an emotion that it brings in someone. So you can have the budget, but if emotion's pulling on you. So there's a bit of a push me and pull you.
Yeah, you can spend a lot of money and you don't get it right.
And one of our sort of values as an interior design practice is strip back, keep it really simple.
Yeah.
Specify less and more from single manufacturers.
Okay.
And that's good for carbon, sort of.
Okay.
All of that.
And we've actually, I'm just looking above your head. There's a cardboard duct in here, in the living lab. So they're trying out how that works.
I can't see it.
Which is amazing. Look at up here.
Oh.
So we're kind of galvanized air ducts.
Oh.
And they're trying out a cardboard one, which I think is end of life is totally reusable.
Yeah,
which is great. So
that's
things like that, and it actually looks, it looks with intent, and the finish is lovely.
Yeah, you can make things look incredibly refined and luxurious.
Yeah.
If you really consider how you're designing it.
Yeah, the consideration and spending more time in that design, and actually early on is what you're describing with your client, who obviously had this great purpose that he instilled in his project teams, because I can see it. He really got that sense of, I believe in this.
Yeah.
So that's working with them quite early on,
Yes.
and being really considered, and then the end result isn't just kind of throw everything at it. And
No.
okay,
Yeah.
no, lovely. Okay, so that's the kind of hotel kind of sector, and a bit about how you get that sense of calm in a space and from sustainable materials, but high luxury brand. What about, so it's entirely different. So what about, and I don't really know how you do this, so what about kind of the student accommodation and the co-living spaces? Because the demographic is different, the intent is different, they're dwelling for longer, you're trying to get, what is it you're trying to achieve with your client teams in those types of spaces?
So the purpose for those spaces, in the main, for our developer clients, is to create connection. So, for example, in PBSA schemes, there will be young adults who may have left home for the first time.
Yeah.
And this is
I remember being that.
Oh, I do. I mean, I was desperate to get out.
Who are all these people?
And it's scary. It can be really scary. Some of them won't be, but it can be really scary, and a lot come from abroad. This is like a stepping stone to the next stage of their life. So the developers who are creating these schemes and the operators who operate and manage the building, sometimes that's developer-led, sometimes it's a separate operator.
Yeah.
They have a huge responsibility for creating connection. And sort of a safe space, as it were.
Because we all need that fundamentally, don't we?
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what humans are. That's what we're based upon. We gather as tribes, and that's what we love.
And you want to find your new tribe.
You find your tribe.
But it blows my mind. Actually, blows my mind to think about. Because you don't think about, you're unconscious as you're moving about the spaces that you live and work and journey through, connecting those spaces where your home and your office or wherever, lecture hall. It's quite a responsibility on the interior designer of the space. How do you actually deliver that?
So you go right back to the beginning of a project. You understand, you've spoken with the client, what's their demographic, what are they trying to achieve, what are their strategic objectives of their project. And basically, you as interior designers, we tend to start off with a shell of a building. There may be some walls in it that the architects have put in. We work alongside a number of different architects.
Yeah.
And then we have space then to create flow adjacencies of different areas. So, for example, there might be a space that they want people to gather in. So you design it in a way that's maybe more central.
But how do you support that in an adjacent? So to enable people to feel, things like, when you have a house party and you put your bar over there and you're a bit nervous because you've got 3 different, friend groups who come, but you've set out the bar there, but actually the main sitting room space, and everyone gathers around the bar, but there's no space to gather around the bar. And you really didn't think about putting the bar in the sitting room, which is actually, is it a bit like that? I mean,
I don't know. Is it like that? Okay. I'm not really sure. We actually really gravitate towards smaller, more intimate spaces.
Oh, right.
As human beings, quite often.
Yeah.
A lot of space isn't necessarily the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So you can facilitate connection by creating maybe slightly more intimate, but you might have a central hub with slightly more intimate spaces around it. Like you might know about booths in workplace scenarios, things like that.
But when you're in that social situation where you're trying to make friends, and then you feel like you get a bit stuck in a small space, and like, oh God, how do I?
Yeah, so I think again in terms of PBSA schemes, that would be down to how they manage. So they might be putting on a cocktail making evening, and then that's in the larger open space, and then they facilitate connection within that. Yeah. And so we've created the spaces for them to be able to do what they want to do. So we need to really fundamentally understand what it is that they want to be able to do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by it. I'm feeling now you have these, I totally understand coming together, feeling a tribe in PBSA. I'm a bit nervous. I want to try and find new mates. You've got to work with your spaces and the organisation to help young people do that. That's quite a lot of pressure, I think. Just to let you know, I'm feeling that
for me. Oh, thank you. It's a huge responsibility for everyone involved in the design process.
Have you gone a bit like that moment in Zeal? Have you gone back into any of these student accommodations and kind of
wish I'd lived there?
Wish you lived
instead of my awful HMO that I had. Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I'd really like to say is there's a real sort of epidemic, is that the right word, of loneliness, especially since COVID, but I think even more so with the digital age and people not understanding how to connect. Churches used to be places or stadiums. In stadiums, and the people really gathered, and quite a lot of that's dying off. But stadiums, like you go into a stadium and you're at a football match or whatever, and everyone's chanting, you feel really great. Everyone's all together, and that's really tribal, and that's really what feeds us. And so I think for us to be able to create situations that facilitate community and connection is hugely important, because that's one of my personal things that I really want to be able to do in my life.
It really moves you when you think of someone loneliness. Being lonely, but even more so perhaps lonely in a space where there's a huge amount of people very close to you.
In terms of any projects that we work on, we use feedback and sort of data, and we tend to go to conferences and understand what the industry's requiring. But for example, one of the things that we heard a number of years ago is that parents want the best for their children, and they tend to think a studio in a PBSA sort of large scale building is going to be the best thing for their children. But
why? Because you've given them
the best, it's the most
you've got everything there.
Yeah, and it might be the best space, and they are really good. It's fine to have studio spaces, but in order for people
a studio is you've got your bed, you've got your kitchenette, you've got your bathroom all to yourself. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So you've got a little bathroom, bed, some shelf space, kitchenette, little space to eat at. And that can be hugely isolating. So actually, sometimes it's better to have clusters. So which is a bedroom, and then an area where there's a living room with a TV and a dining space and a kitchen.
For a few more people,
and depending on the number of the clusters, so you can have a 4-bed cluster or a 6-bed or whatever. And different developers like different ways. So at Westworks Interiors, we really try to understand how, in terms of the way people use the space, how that then facilitates their connection with other people.
I love data, because it actually helps in any kind of conversation where we might have differences of opinion.
Absolutely, you can just go hard facts.
I've never disagreed with you.
But the other
thing, if I came out with data,
then I have to agree with you. But the other thing that we do at Westworks is get feedback from. So we go and we talk to the operators, and we go and talk to the students, and understand. Well, what do you actually use the space in the way that we thought you might use it?
Yeah. And it's probably quite surprising.
I think it can be. And if they don't, then it's like, okay, well, maybe next time we look at doing it this way.
I mean, the amount of times you do see kind of coffee points and stuff like that obviously haven't been touched, and quite a lot of effort has been put in to putting them there. And it's just because it's slightly on a jar with actually where the
flows and adjacencies maybe weren't quite as you thought they might be.
So we all love those kind of serendipitous moments. It's like, do you know what? You know, when you come home and you go, that was great. I didn't know that was going to happen today, and have that conversation. Can you actually try and design a space to encourage that to happen?
Yeah, you can. So the standard one would be a kitchen area where people come and make tea and coffee, and then someone else might come in and make their lunch, and then they have a chat, and they might not have spoken to them before. So that's a really sort of obvious one.
Yeah.
Interestingly, in that sphere, with the advent of the zip taps, the billy taps, these sorts of things, actually putting a kettle on takes time. Whereas if you've got instant hot water, you don't necessarily get that. So that doesn't actually necessarily facilitate
we need to
connection.
make that longer again.
Yeah, we need kettles.
Oh, so when everyone complains that's the longest kettle in the world, which they do in our office.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
That's
Can be
really
a good thing.
Are there other examples of that?
Yeah, so for example, when you're looking at flows and adjacencies, there'll be quiet areas, louder areas when you come into the building, and the flow through a building should be able to then facilitate these serendipitous water cooler moments, as we call them.
And then obviously there's the workspace. We all know there's a lot of talk about how the work environment is changing. You know, technology is changing. We've come out of COVID. Where is it landing? So tell me a bit about how you work for that dynamic and unknown for future use of space?
Yeah, I think you can only really work within the boundaries of where we're at right now, with a view to understanding where it's moving on to, if that makes sense. Because there is this shift towards individually, how do we work? You know, everyone, I can never remember which gen it is now, but the ones that are in the workplace, Gen Z, maybe, I don't know, it's very much about personal brand. What are my values? Where do I want to work? Which is
it's
great.
nice because we have the choice. We never thought about. I don't think.
You'd sort of be like, oh, thank you for my job.
Yes. Can I try and come in a bit early and leave a bit later than everyone else?
I'd love to do that.
Yes.
Whereas now it's very much boundaried.
But it's much better.
Which is better.
Yeah.
It is better.
Yes.
It's interesting as employers to be able to sort of manage that. And that's giving autonomy to people. And that's, actually, that's really important. It's not easy, but it's easier to set up a company now. And you can sort of do whatever you want to do. There's opportunity out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So workplace needs to be able to embrace the values of their employees and their personal brands, which I find fascinating because I had no idea what a personal brand was when we were talking about this, weren't we?
I could. Yes, you do have a personal brand.
Yes, and so do you.
Yes.
and it's about attraction and retention of employees and making them feel valued.
Yeah, and actually, you're much more productive in the morning than I am.
Yes.
And as an employer, it's great because we can actually employ the best people that don't actually have to be within, commuting distance from our office.
No.
Because technology has allowed us to, there's the digital community and the physical space.
Yeah, so it's sort of, I guess we're digressing off space, but space and connection and all of that is really important as part of the digital community.
Tell me, how on earth then do you actually design the space to support that?
It's very different for each different workplace, how they want to operate. But in terms of the way that the world sort of thinking is going, it's looking at spaces that are sort of non-offices. Okay. They're collaboration spaces that the company might own. So in co-working spaces, there's a company we work with who are based in Bristol, and their sort of strapline is by creatives for creatives. So they understand how creatives want to work.
Okay, so that's their target.
That's their target audience.
Right, okay. But to be fair, I'm not a creative. Well, I like to think I am.
Yes, you are.
I would be drawn anyway to someone that says, By creators, for creators. Like,
yes.
That's me.
Yeah, yeah. I know, it's great. And their company is actually called Gather Round, and that's about gathering and being around us. So everything we design has a central gathering space.
Yeah.
It's like a fire pit, but it's not a fire pit. So they provide like layout spaces or podcast studios or all those sorts of things. And then maybe they're more, in terms of their co-working split, they're more studio based rather than open desking.
Okay.
For example.
So you've got a pod of 10 desks or something.
Yeah, so they might have a 2-person studio, a 4-person studio, a 6-person that you can rent out. But they understand how creatives want to work. And so
how are they successful actually in the selection? You know, when you think about then the selection of the interior materials and light levels and everything, how are they successful in achieving that?
How are they successful? I think again, it's about a base sort of palette of it's quite simple. It's quite a simple idea, and it's creating spaces that people want to be in. So that then they can sort of personalise as well. That's another thing about workspace is
add your own.
How do
you do that? Because sometimes you're not allowed to stick things on the wall.
That's then the culture of the workplace
so
that you work in.
They encourage people to adapt.
Yeah, I guess it depends. So there might be more of flexible spaces that people come in and they just sort of, they don't have their own desk. So you can't really personalise that.
Yeah.
But you can create spaces that people are really comfortable in.
What kind of textures do you gravitate towards in a floor and then a wall and a ceiling first? And then I'll ask you about furniture.
A floor, a wall and a ceiling. I think it really depends on the project.
Yeah.
So Gather Round, for example, we've used marmoleum, which is a sheet roll product, which again is incredibly sustainable. And we use marmoleum in some of the areas of the hotel as well.
Okay.
Marmoleum is traditionally a product that you'll see it in hospitals and education buildings.
Easy to clean.
Incredibly sustainable, and really robust. It lasts for decades.
But again, with the space you're trying to create for collaborators, it's got the right acoustic kind of reverberation properties, and it's got...
So there are certain... So there's marmoleum decibel, for example, which will have a decibel rating on it in terms of...
Would you stick that on the wall as well?
You'd have to understand what class rating it has to be able to put it on the wall. So there's all of FR stuff that then comes in with wall.
So in terms of getting the acoustic panels and the softness see, what do you like? What do you gravitate towards for the surfaces for a gather round?
For a gather round. So it depends whether you're retrofitting.
Okay,
so retrofitting. So the first gather round space we did was an old tobacco factory. So it was all stripped back to wonderful brickwork, which is lush, isn't it? That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's the ideal. And that was texture and history, a sense of place, sense of space. That was really great to be able to have that as a backdrop. So then you can work with that.
Yeah, nice.
And then sort of almost fit the studios within it. And then everything else is quite simple because that's the thing that sings. That's your anchor point. That's what you want to see.
To the interior. Yeah, lovely. And then how do you get involved very much with the light levels and how that plays off the textures? Because it's going to change throughout the day, obviously.
So there are a lot of sort of smart LED lighting that changes again throughout the day. So you set it, or it works with the levels of outside light to understand. Nice. So that's quite good in office space. In terms of hotel space, warm, cosy lighting, little pools of light here or there.
Yeah.
Depending on the atmosphere that you want to create. Again, there'll be different light settings throughout the day.
We went for supper last night, didn't we? We walked
Couldn't see a thing.
Couldn't see a thing.
Well, that's mainly because our eyesight's going.
We also couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear
the really lovely
waiter.
But so that was conducive to a certain type of very, either now go to sleep.
Yeah, I definitely needed my glasses for that.
Yeah, so there's a balance of that, and also the space that you're trying. You can't have it low lighting everywhere in a hotel. I presume you need to. The reception needs to be bright.
Yeah. So so that's where there's a huge amount of collaboration within the design team for a project. So the design team consists of the architect, interiors, contractor, MEP, so mechanical, electrical, all sorts of different people. I can't think of anyone else right now, but those are the main.
They've got to be aligned.
You've got to be aligned.
Understand what you're doing.
Often I'll be in a meeting and the lovely electrical guys have sort of done their lighting layout and sort of suggested these lights, and I'm sort of sitting there going, I think we need to warm it up on the Kelvin front a bit, please.
Okay.
Or like the chroma or whatever in terms of the intensity of the light or the warmth. Yeah, it's hugely important. So collaboration within projects is really, within the design team, is really important.
Yeah.
And that's what we're quite good at, actually.
Setting it up well.
And there are various tools that help us do that. We work in software called Revit, and there's something called BIM Collaboration Pro, and it essentially allows you to all work on one model wherever you are, and so we can then see when all of this gumph goes in from the MEP lot and go, well, actually I wanted to have a light hanging there.
Is it normally the MEP that gets in your way?
Yes, it ruins everything. They ruin everything.
Right, come on, MEP, we can do better.
So, for example, a lot of people like exposed ceilings. That's really hard to design well, because you've got to make it look good.
And you got, so MEP being mechanical, electrical and plumbing.
So it's like, it's really got to...
a lot that's supporting
it's
this
huge
space,
amount
actually.
of stuff that goes on.
So do you empathise with them? Because they do need to create a
I mean, I know you're in the environment there, so I really empathise.
Do you like working with... Yes.
But I do. And then that's about, interestingly, connection within the design team.
Yeah.
Building good relationships with people is hugely important.
And then understanding
I can get my own way.
But also understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and we're
and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculous if people start arguing.
Yeah.
It's very much easier if you'll just sit down and have a chat.
So, so what you've described are with the hotel, PBSA, student accommodation, and workspaces, is you've got the functions that people need. So they're coming from home, and they've got their, it's quite easy to create a bedroom because you need a bed and you need a sink. There's some functions that you need, but then there's the spaces in between. Are they, talk to me about, are they kind of, is that where it gets really fun and you can get creative?
Yeah, I think so. There's this third place sort of idea. There is a sociologist, I can't remember his name, but came up with it years and years and years ago.
Okay.
And so your first place is your home, your second place is your office, and your third place is sort of the in-between spaces.
Yeah.
And that's really important. It's far more important nowadays, as we've been talking about how people work and how people want to live. It's not home, sit in an office all day necessarily. There's all this other peripheral but really important stuff.
Because actually, it makes you feel happy about being in the end place that you're going to. The journey there, or the through the reception of a hotel, you've understood it, you recognise it.
Yeah.
You've had a good interaction that was unconscious or not pre-thought, it was accidental.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and it's been happening for a number of years now, is the collision of all these different sectors and how they all sort of all melding and merging. Soho Works has come out of Soho House, and Hoxton, I can't remember their brand, but they've created these co-working spaces, but within hotel lobby areas there will be spaces for people to be able to work comfortably, because that the brands understand how people want to live and work.
Yeah, because I might just need to do an email now. Where do I sit? So you need to actually give people... technology's brought our ability to connect everywhere. Yeah. So then we want to connect, because we're like, I could just do this whilst I'm in the middle of a hotel lobby and I need to balance it on one knee.
There's very much a sort of an interchangeable space or spaces that work within all sectors.
Okay. I get very nervous if I don't know where that I'm going to get my coffee.
You do, yes. And I noticed that this morning, yes.
You've really given me, I know I've known you since you're 8, but you've actually given me an awful lot to think about as I walk between home and office and the spaces in between, to make me actually think about what it is that's been designed and selected in the space to make me feel comfortable or out of place and nervous and a bit anxious. So that's great. You've really, really uncovered how you design and the palette that you use for that. What is one word you would use to describe the future of our industry?
Curiosity. And by that, I mean, always at Westworks Interiors, we always remain curious about how people want to live, how they want to work, how they want to engage with each other.
Nothing's a given.
Nothing's a given. You can't just sort of bash out the same offices, the same hotels, the same PBSA schemes, because it is constantly evolving. For example, in a PBSA scheme, with a developer client recently, we've been talking about how deliveries are going to be being made by robots, and then how does that affect how you design the flow into a building and where the robots go to deliver the parcels.
Yeah, okay.
So that, so remaining curious about all the aspects of how people live and work and sort of engage with each other.
Including those support functions.
Including all of that.
Thank you.
That's all right.
I do have one last question.
Okay.
What do your family think about what you do?
So I can't really answer for my husband because he's an architect and he knows exactly what I do. Okay. We don't work together, but we have companies.
I have been
similar.
at dinner and you guys talk about your project, so he knows what you do.
He knows what I do. So he's ECU Westworks, we're Westworks Interiors, completely separate companies, but yeah. My two sons, 13 and 11, I've actually asked them this question, and Thomas, the older one, said, "Well, you design interiors, Mum." And I was like, "Okay, yeah. What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, people wouldn't have interiors if you didn't design them."
That's hilarious.
Very true.
There'd just be a big empty space.
Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'd all just sit on the floor.
And then Stanley said, "Well, I don't know. Do you know what you do?" And I was like, "Well, yes, I do. What I do. Do you know what I do?" He's a great statesman. He just passed the question back to me.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not entirely sure.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
And thank you to our listeners for engaging in retrofitting our reality. Please follow us on Artus Air. Please follow Westworks Interiors and the other great brands that we've been talking about today. And come and listen to us again on our next podcast.